Manana Sizuz, good morning. Todos Hamzu, thank you for being here in your 38th Guam legislature this morning for this morning's public hearing. This morning's public hearing is conducted by the Committee on Finance and Government Operations and is called to order at this time, 0900, on Thursday, February 12, 2026. First notice of this public hearing was disseminated to all senators and media outlets on February 5th, 2026, with its second notice disseminated on February 9, 2026. The hearing notices were also made available on the Guam Legislature's website, our legislative calendar, and the Government of Guam's public notice portal. The committee will hear testimony on the following agenda items. 38th GL 25-1523 is the appointment of Genevieve P. Rapadas as a member of the Board of Commissioners, Guam Ethics Commission, to serve 4 years from the date of confirmation. The next will be Bill 214-38 COR, introduced by Senator Shawn Gumataotao. It's an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 15, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to strengthening the independence and effectiveness of the Guam Ethics Commission. And Bill number 205-38, introduced by Joe S. San Agustin. It's an act to amend subsection 6802E of Article 8, Chapter 6, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the discount on the purchase of tobacco stamps. At this time, I would like to welcome my colleagues that are joining me this morning. Of course, Senator Joe San Agustin, and I understand that Senator Shawn Gumataotao will be here soon for the hearing on his bill. So thank you, Senators, for being here. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance of Legislature Guahan's general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chairperson before speaking and shall state their full name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance of the nature of the bill that's on the agenda, or in this instance, for the individual who is being nominated. Personal inferences on the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from this hearing of any member of the Legislature Guahan or the public audience who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 38th Guam Legislature standing rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in immediate removal from the public hearing room. With that, we will now proceed to hear testimony on behalf of Attorney Rapadas before we hear from the nominee. So if I can have Ms. Genevieve Rapadas come forward, and also I'd like to invite anyone who has come to testify on the record on her behalf. So what we normally do in these instances is we will have those who are going to testify in support or whatever on your nomination, and then we'll have you last, Ms. Rapadas, to make your testimony and be prepared for questions. So please have a seat, everyone. Okay, so signed up for testimony. We will begin in the order that the sign-up came in. And so, Mr. Attorney Rodney Jacob, you're recognized to testify on behalf of the nominee.
Thank you very much. And good morning, Chairman Duenas. Good morning, Senator San Agustin. And this is a great pleasure to be here. And I'm really happy I'm going before Mike, Attorney Mike Pangilinan, because he's just so good. And we've always been in a competition about Genevieve, because we're so proud of her, and so some of my words will definitely reflect that. First and foremost, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. My name is Rodney Jacob. I'm here to express my strong and unequivocal support for the nomination of Attorney Genevieve Rapadas to serve as a commissioner on the Guam Ethics Commission. I've had the privilege of knowing and working with Attorney Rapadas for more than 20 years. We first met when she was in your second year, right? Second year of law school. And since then, we have spent the last 18 years as very close partners. We've worked side by side in litigation, advisory matters, and complex legal challenges affecting our island and our people. Throughout this work, I've come to know Attorney Rapadas not only as an exceptional lawyer, but as a person whose character and commitment to service are unmatched. The Guam Ethics Commission's mandate is to uplift the public's confidence in government employees, programs, and operations to ensure the practice and promotion of the highest ethical standards and behavior in the government of Guam. The Commission's responsibilities include providing informal guidance on all aspects of the Guam Ethics Code, educating government employees through the Ethics in Government program, maintaining financial disclosures and gift disclosures, and conducting confidential investigations into potential violations. Attorney Rapadas brings to this nomination something that cannot be trained or taught. She has an unwavering moral compass. She is tough, she is fair, and she always, always, always does the right thing. Her record of service extends far beyond her legal career. She has given countless hours to the Girl Scouts, the Guam Bar Association. She is a leader in SHRM. She has built programs that strengthen young people and promote workplace fairness. She has consistently used her talents to serve the community, not herself. Attorney Rapadas also brings remarkable professional competence. She is meticulous in her analysis, thoughtful in her approach, and skilled in identifying and resolving complex issues. She listens deeply, seeking first to understand before offering judgment. She works hard, she collaborates easily, and never brings an agenda other than to do the right thing. And she will bring these qualities to the Commission. So what I admire most about Attorney Rapadas is her heart for service. She believes that using her gifts to help others is how she shows gratitude for the blessings she's received. She follows the example set by her parents. Her mother, Janet, is with us today, and her iconic grandmother, Cirilla Rapadas, who taught her to live a life of service, humility, and integrity. The Ethics Commission deserves commissioners who understand that public service is about trust, fairness, and accountability. Attorney Rapadas understands this deeply. She will bring sound judgment, strength of character, deep respect for the rule of law, and an unwavering commitment to the people she serves. So for all these reasons, and based on the past 2 decades of working closely with her, I offer my strongest recommendation that the legislature confirm Attorney Rapadas as Commissioner of the Guam Ethics Commission. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Caesar's Masi, Attorney Rodney Jacob, and we appreciate you being here this morning. So next we'll have Attorney Michael Pangilinan to give his testimony.
Thank you so much, Chairman Duenas. Buenas and Hafade, Chairman Duenas, and Senator San Augustine. Rodney Jacob's a tough act to follow, but I am going to do my best. And yeah, I can't deny that there's a little competition between us for who can outdo each other in terms of how much we love Genevieve. But I'm going to maybe say some of the same things that Rodney Jacob just said. But I want to just first introduce myself. I'm Mike Pangilinan. I'm an attorney with law firm of Calvo, Jacob, and Pangilinan. I'm very, very honored to have this opportunity to present testimony in support of the nomination of my friend and colleague, Attorney Genevieve Rapadas, to the Guam Ethics Commission. I've known Genevieve for 18 years, since she first joined our law firm as an attorney in our firm's San Francisco office. After she moved back to Guam about 11 years ago, we began working more closely together, and that's when I really got to know more about how amazing Genevieve is as an attorney, but more importantly, as a person. Over about the past 6 years, Jen and I have developed a labor and employment law practice within our firm. Jen and I currently serve together as members of the board of directors of the Guam chapter of a worldwide human resource management association called the Society for Human Resource Management, which is also known as SHRM. So beyond being colleagues, I also considered Jen to be my good friend. I'm hoping this doesn't come as a surprise to Jen. Genevieve will provide tremendous benefit to the Guam Ethics Commission. And I really cannot emphasize that point strongly enough. She's a skilled lawyer with years of experience analyzing ethical issues and interpreting ethics rules and regulations. Attorneys on Guam are governed by a set of ethics rules, and we have to always ensure that our representation of our clients is in compliance with those rules. We also have to guide our government clients and our private clients involved in government projects to ensure that their conduct does not violate the ethics rules that are applicable to them. And I say all of this to make the following point. Navigating ethical issues and regulations for our firm and for our clients, including our government clients, has been an essential part of the work that Jen has done throughout her entire career. She will bring this valuable skill set to the Guam Ethics Commission. But Jen brings much more to the table than just her lawyering skills. I think anyone who knows Jen will tell you that one of the first things that you notice or that you have an impression of Jen is that she is very smart and she's very tough. But Jen is a particular type of smart. She's great at analyzing complex legal and factual issues, yes, but she also has a natural ability to detect when someone is not being forthcoming or when there is just somebody's trying to avoid addressing an issue. It's like a sixth sense that she has when she encounters something that just feels off to her. That's definitely one of Jen's superpowers and one that makes her naturally a good fit for the Guam Ethics Commission. Now, speaking of superpowers, to say Jen is tough is an understatement. She is a fierce advocate for her clients. She has spent most of her career thus far as a litigator. But toughness is not a career choice for Jen, it's just who she is. A lot of people may not know this about Jen, but Jen is an elite athlete. In addition to being an attorney, she's also a certified personal trainer, and she regularly competes in and wins triathlons and other extreme sports events. Now, to be completely honest, some of us within our firm are a little bit afraid of Jen. You know, we say that with complete affection, of course. She approaches everything she does with focus and with mental toughness. She will be undaunted by the important task of holding officers and employees of our government accountable to the ethical standards required under Guam law. But similar to what Rodney said, what I admire most about Jen is her authenticity and her genuineness. Jen is a person of character and integrity. She's honest, sometimes brutally so, and she's never fake. She never sugarcoats her assessment of a situation, especially when it involves a problem that needs to be fixed. She holds herself and our law firm to the highest of ethical standards. Whenever Jen and I are working on a project together for a client, a new project, the first thing she always says to me is, "Mike, have we run a conflicts check on this? Don't forget to run a conflicts check." Ethics and integrity are always a priority for Jen, as they should be. Jen has high standards when it comes to fairness and conduct generally. She will call out inappropriate conduct whenever she sees it. She doesn't tolerate knuckleheads, especially in the workplace. As an employment lawyer and as a member of SHRM, Jen regularly provides training to businesses on how to prevent harassment and unlawful conduct in the workplace, and how to foster a work environment that is healthy and safe for both government and private employees. Mr. Chairman, Senator San Augustine, Jen is smart, tough, fair-minded, and skilled problem solver with many years of experience navigating ethics rules and regulations. Her natural abilities and legal training, but even more importantly, her genuine desire to help people and promote honesty and integrity on our island will be a huge benefit to the Guam Ethics Commission. I can say with complete confidence that Governor Leon Guerrero could not have made a better selection for the Guam Ethics Commission than Genevieve Rapadas. I thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator San Augustine, for receiving my testimony this morning.
Jesus Masi, Attorney Pangilinan, and this is probably a political move on my plate in my regard, but I'm going to let you guys junk and poll for who had the better testimony. Mr. Nico, please, the Executive Director of Guam Ethics Commission, please, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator and Senator Shawn Gumataotao and members of the committee. I have not known Jen that long. In fact, the current position I'm in, I was just appointed middle of last year. However, the reason why I took on this role is because the ethics commissioners that currently sit really are a testament to the goal and the mandate of the commission. And their recommendation of having Jen join this team basically is in line with the legislation further on in this agenda today to be more representative of the community. And so I really appreciate the foresight of the commissioners in trusting me and supporting our new commissioner, or hopefully soon, because it only further diversifies the experience on this board. And that's what our commission needs. That's what Senator Gumataotao put in his bill, is that we need to be more representative of the people that we should be holding accountable. Right now, our commissioners have backgrounds in human resources, in the banking industry, in the medical industry, in business consulting, and with her confirmation on the legal side. So it continues to push towards that agenda of independence and really leaning into the expertise that each of these commissioners can provide and would guide me as the executive director to further strengthen our mandate. So I am fully behind her recommendation, her appointment, and I look forward to you guys confirming her soon so we could have additional member.
Jesus Masi, Director Fujikawa, we appreciate that. And next then, I know we have a bunch of sign-ins, so I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, ma'am, please.
Hafaday, Chairman Duenas and Senator San Augustine. I think I forgot to check the box for oral testimony, but my name is Daphne Leon Guerrero, and I am currently serving as the People Director for Atkins Kroll and also as the chairperson for the Guam Ethics Commission. And while I don't believe that I will be as eloquent as Rodney or Mike, I am also here today to offer my full and enthusiastic support for the nomination of Genevieve Rapadas. I have had the privilege of working closely with Genevieve over the last several years, and I can speak to her character from two very distinct perspectives. And one is as a leader volunteer. So similar to Mike, I worked with Genevieve on the Society for Human Resource Management Guam chapter. During my tenure as president, which was 2021 and 22, and she served as our VP of membership and is continuing to serve the chapter as the VP of Legislative Affairs. So I have seen firsthand her ability to navigate very complex organizational challenges with incredible skill, professionalism, and insight, I think, as was demonstrated by Mike and Rodney in their testimony. Second is we are also a client. So Jen is one of our representative attorneys for Atkins Kroll, along with Mike and Rodney as well. And our company utilizes her firm, and she has personally represented us on various client issues, including providing harassment training for our employees, including assisting us with investigations when our employees, when we have employee challenges, as many of us do. And in every interaction, she has demonstrated her razor-sharp legal mind and an unwavering commitment to doing things the right way, right? And beyond her professional life, Genevieve's roots are on our island run deep. She is a graduate of the Academy of Our Lady of Guam and has dedicated nearly a decade to the Guam Girl Scouts Board of Directors. So the Guam Ethics Commission requires members who prioritize integrity and honesty. And these are not just words to Genevieve. They are the virtues she lives by in her legal practice and in her volunteer work. She is exactly the kind of balanced, principled leader that we need in this role. So I am honored to recommend Genevieve Rapadas for confirmation, and I thank you for your time and this opportunity to testify.
Si Masi, Ms. Daphne Leon Guerrero, and we appreciate that so much. So I'm going to also, just before we go to the nominee, check off and make sure that the committee and those listening understand that we also have a testimony in favor from Janet Rapadas and also Adrian Anulao. We also have Kristen James in favor, Chelsea Anderson in favor, and Vanessa Camacho in favor. So, Ms. Genevieve, you have a host of folks here to support you, and so now we will hear your testimony on your nomination. Please proceed.
Thank you. Buenas San Hafade, Chairman Duenas, Senator San Augustine, Senator Gumataotao, and members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am honored deeply to be considered to the appointment to the Guam Ethics Commission. I am surrounded by my mother, who's here, Janet, my husband, Adrian, as well as my colleagues, friends, and representatives from the Guam Ethics Commission. As a daughter of Guam, born and raised on this island, I stand before you not only as an attorney, but as someone whose roots, family, and identity are grounded here. Like many families on Guam, mine believe deeply in education and in giving back. 25 years ago, my parents, Danilo and Janet Rapadas, sent me off island for school at the University of San Diego with both pride and expectation. Now, I was the first, and I'm the oldest, so you can imagine that this was hard for my parents. But it was something that was not debated in our household. It was simply expected that I was going to go off island, get my education, get my experience, and return back home and contribute to this community. That understanding was shaped by my grandmother, Cirilla Rapadas, whose deep commitment to further education, community, culture, respect, and service to Guam guided our family. I carried that with me while earning my Bachelor of Arts, magna cum laude in political science from the University of San Diego, and later my Juris Doctor from the University of San Francisco School of Law, where I received the Cali Award for Excellence in Legal Research and Writing. Even while building my legal career in California, Guam was never an afterthought. I worked for a Guam-based firm, and for almost 10 years, I had the privilege of traveling back and forth from California and Guam, as well as to CNMI, allowing me to maintain those roots here at home, as well as in the Pacific region. For the last 18 years, I have practiced law representing companies and government agencies in federal and local litigation, as well as at the administrative level before the Civil Service Commission, as well as the OPA, including contract disputes, employment and labor matters, and constitutional claims. Throughout my career, ethics has not been an abstract. It has been an obligation. As an attorney, I am bound by, among other codes, the Guam Rules of Professional Conduct, which govern competence, candor, confidentiality, and conflicts of interest. I've had to make difficult decisions, sometimes in sensitive or high-pressure situations, guided not by convenience, but by principle. My contribution to the island's community outside of my profession began when I joined the board of the Guam Girl Scouts of Guam 10 years ago. That experience allowed me to support programs that build leadership, character, and civic responsibility in young girls on our island. It reminded me that public trust begins early, in the values we teach the next generation. I also serve, as you've heard, on the board for SHRM for the Guam chapter, and for the past years as the Legislative Affairs Director. In that role, I have worked closely with the board to review and provide input on legislation affecting our workforce and business community, reinforcing my commitment to thoughtful, balanced policy, as well as providing training to the business community of best practices in the workplace. In advising clients through investigations and compliance matters, I have seen firsthand how much public trust can hinge on whether processes are fair, impartial, and transparent. I have also seen how fragile that trust can be. Those experiences shaped my understanding that ethics is not about punishment alone. It also is about preserving confidence in our institutions and ensuring that public service remains worthy of the public's faith. My background representing both private entities and public agencies, along with my service in community organizations, has given me a balanced perspective. I understand the operational realities of government. I have worked closely with numerous agencies on this island, GITA, the airport, GWA, and at all levels, from the board to the employees in the procurement office. And I understand the expectations of accountability held by the public. If confirmed, I would approach this role with independence, diligence, and humility. This would be my first opportunity to serve on a government board, and I do not take that lightly. I seek to serve because I believe deeply that accountability strengthens democracy and safeguards our island's future. Guam deserves institutions that operate with integrity, fairness, and transparency, and I would be honored to contribute to that mission. Lastly, in the spirit of full transparency and candor, I want to thank my colleague Mike for telling you that I compete in triathlons. I can only hope maybe one day that I can sustain that level of energy, but high rocks and CrossFit seem to be my thing. So I thought, if put to the test, I better pass today and let you know that I want to correct that record. But I respectfully ask for your support and the opportunity to serve the people of Guam. Sizuas Maasi.
I think the people of Guam realize that's a fun office to work in. So thank you for all of your testimony. I will go to my colleagues, but I'll be remiss if I didn't recognize another Rapadas in the room if you wanted to testify or if you're just here in support, moral support. Okay, thank you, Attorney General. Right on. Rapadas in the house.
Yes.
Okay, so this time I'm going to defer to my colleague, Senator San Agustin, who recognize who was first here to be alongside me and to ask any questions you may have, the nominee or the panel.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank first the panel for being here and for your support. I like the part for Genevieve, the triathlon, the running. Get the commission. You got my support. Let me start with that, okay?
Okay, thank
Get
you.
the commission running. I like the part when they mentioned the conflict check.
Yes.
When she mentioned it's about doing it the right way, and that's been my slogan. It's not about the easy way, but the right way. No matter what, just do it right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And I look forward to you. You know, you on the Ethics Commission. You know, I was the chair of the Ethics Commission when we got it to be a standalone. So they're on their way. They're going to get an attorney that runs. Get the commission running.
Yes.
You know that, I don't say that for the triathlon, but for getting the job done. And then when you do the conflict checks, check them all out, every one of them, because I know you as an attorney, you know their statement says a lot, and I look forward to you participating. And I'm happy that you took the nomination because you're going to go beyond the current administration. You're going to have to deal with the upcoming new administration, but in the Ethics Commission, you stand alone. I mean, when I stand alone as the commission to do what's right and just move forward. And I look forward to you having fun. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I fully support our nomination.
Thank you,
Senator San Agustin. Senator Gumataotao, you any questions or comments for the nominee or for the panel that's before us today?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Attorney, for being with us this morning and accepting a nomination to serve. I mean, I support your nomination, so I'm not going to ask too much, but I do just want to ask one question. From your work with the SHRM, taking that work and carrying it over to support this commission, when you think about that, is there very similar types of work or something you might be able to help with them when they're doing their jobs in terms of looking at the entire ethics sphere for Guam?
Well, I think with my work with SHRM, it has been pretty diverse. But one thing that I have learned working on SHRM is that there are a number of personalities with a lot of differences of opinion. I can imagine that that would also be the case with the commission. And I think I've been able to navigate some of that discussion, putting my input, standing firm where I believe that I think where SHRM should go. With respect to the Ethics Commission, we're dealing with complaints that are going to be filed against government officials. Going through that process, while there may not be similarities for SHRM, I think that the working together to ensure that certain processes are in place and fair, and that people's perspectives are heard, I can see that being kind of a commonality. But I certainly think that the skills that I have built through my legal career will certainly help move the mission and purpose of the commission forward. And we in my practice, actually, we had a couple of cases involving potential complaints against government officials, just allegations. And the reason why I first heard of this commission is because of that case. And I always wondered, oh, what is the commission doing? It was established in 1996, and I was curious about the work. And so when Daphne approached me about potentially being on this commission, I was really excited because I believed in the purpose of it and really getting it running, as Senator San Augustine mentioned.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm hoping that you'll stick around for a few more minutes to, after your confirmation hearing is over, to be a part of the public hearing on the bill proposal. I'm not going to put the two together because I think the important thing is I'm here to support you and your nomination from the governor, and I will plan to vote affirmatively for your seat. And thank you again for willingness to serve.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator, I want to add another really important point about Attorney Rapadas' qualifications. When you asked the question about what she had learned from SHRM, and she responded about her experience over the last 2 decades practicing law, when a complaint is filed against a public employee, it's important to evaluate that complaint. But equally important is if the public employee did no wrong, because we know complaints come in that are not well taken. You want somebody to stand up for our public servants, and you need somebody tough to stand up, even if there is public commentary out there. And one of the reasons why Mike and I came to testify was to share that quality about Genevieve, is that if you're wrong, but if you're right, she's got your back. And that's a really important element to our public service.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gumataotao. I'm not usually stumped for words or questions to ask a nominee, but I got to say that this morning, I think the demonstration by the panel that's been here to speak on your behalf, speaks highly of yourself and, of course, your outstanding accomplishments and the recognition of your grandmother, who I think is exactly where you get the qualities that you have. We've worked alongside her for a long time. And certainly I can see, that lineage following through. But I think before I ask at least one question, maybe we do have former Attorney General Attorney Rapadas, to come up and say a few words. So I'll do that before I ask you one question, Genevieve.
Well, I changed my mind. Not in full-throated support. I do obviously support her, but I'm not here as a former Attorney General. I'm not here as her uncle. I'm here as a colleague, supporting her nomination. I know from, and this is kind of inconsistent, but I know from growing up and her growing up around us, she's had a pedigree that is, I think, unmatched. I mean, her grandfather came from the Philippines and a police officer. I remember speaking to him about being, and using his experience growing up in the Philippines, but then becoming a police officer and having, this integrity to be on the force, probably one of the first police officers on the force. And then she also has obviously her father to look up to. He's in an industry that is one of the most highly regulated industries in the world, and she's had to grow up with that, and maybe to her dismay, but I think a lot of that has seeped into her. And then in her practice as an attorney, it's I think unmatched by a lot of people I see now with tons more years behind her. I mean, you can have years, but may not have the experience, and she has the experience. And I've actually had one case with her years ago, but it was in federal court, and I could see the legal instincts that she has, and the smarts that it takes. And the one thing I understand, and she understands, is that she's operating in our system where the rule of law, and this rule of law is something that I think that is deep and ingrained in her. So I fully support her nomination. Okay, as a former Attorney General, as her uncle, and also as a colleague. So I support her.
Sidusmasi, General Rapadas, we appreciate that. So, Ms. Genevieve, I guess my only question really is, in your overview and your invitation to become a member of the Ethics Commission, just some thoughts right now in terms of, we've got our colleagues saying, get it running, and we're gonna have another bill here heard, and the director speaks to the value that you're gonna bring. Just a kind of a short synopsis of your view of where it is as having become autonomous as it is now, and how you see the one point you want to take into the board that you see that you'll bring enhancement to what they're doing.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Duenas. I have, prior to this hearing and in preparation just for my potential confirmation, I have sat down with Nico and with Daphne talking about the goals of the commission. I did read the enabling legislation as well as some of the related statutes, and I understand that while this commission has been around for almost 30 years, it is still a bit at its infancy. And I'd like to thank Governor Liu for putting this commission back kind of in its operations. And so I think I understand that the commission has started with certain rules and regulations and policies for doing the work that it's intended to do, but that it doesn't necessarily have the teeth behind the power that it's been given or the purpose that it's been established for, and that is to actually do something with the process, right? So when complaints are filed, I understand that the commissioners can have a hearing. There's a process in place where evidence or testimony is heard on that complaint, and it's then simply referred to the Attorney General's office and perhaps never goes anywhere from there. But I think in order for the commission to have a real effect on our island as well as in the government, it needs, like I said, to have some teeth. It needs to be able to impose certain consequences on who is being complained of. And of course, that comes with due process. That's going to come with ensuring that whoever is made or whoever is named in the complaint gets a fair day before the commission. But I think if this commission is to really have an impact, it needs to be able to have that full-throated power behind it to impose certain consequences. And what that may be, I understand, is still up for debate, but I certainly think that's one place to start, as well as ensuring public testing. I've spoken with Nico about having a barometer in the community about public trust. I think that's certainly important now. We are in election season. We are moving to a new administration, and I think it's a really great time to see what our community, what our public thinks out there about how our government is doing. And I recognize, like I said, because I've worked with government agencies, from the board to the employees in the divisions. It is not an easy job to be a government official. They have to make tough decisions every day for not just the government, but for the public at large. So I recognize that it's a tough job, but I think it's still important that we see what people in the community think about what our government officials are doing.
You know, I thoroughly enjoy that answer, and I think the governor has made a fine selection. And I think that I'm going to ask you also, if you have the time, please stick around for the hearing on the next bill, because I think that that's where, when we discuss that bill, Nico, it sounds like you've got, if you ask for help to be on the way, it looks like you've got help on the way in terms of really fully forming and moving forward under your leadership now, as having taken the helm. And I think that you've got a lot to work with now. Not that you don't already have that, but certainly it looks like a very wise selection. And so I'm going to consider Ms. Genevieve Rapadas, your hearing having been heard, and I'm going to commit that you will be up for a vote in the March session. I think it's very important to get you on ASAP. If there were an earlier session, it would be there, but we don't. So it'll be in March, and look forward to your nomination being placed on the floor. And you certainly, with the support that you have and the answer that you've given to just my one question, I can commit that you have my vote as well. I don't think we have to ask about the understanding of conflicts as an attorney. I think that one's clear, so that's a normal question from the dais, but I think we're good with that. So we're going to take a 1-minute recess to set up for the next bill to be heard. But thank you once again for being here, and thank you for supporters and family for being here as well. And so we'll take a 1-minute recess. Um, The Committee on Government and Finance is back in order on the public hearing this morning after recess. Once again, we would like to thank Ms. Genevieve Rapadas for being here and having heard her confirmation. So now we will move to Bill 214-38 COR, introduced by Shawn Gumataotao. Once again, it's an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 15, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to strengthening the independence and effectiveness of the Guam Ethics Commission. And so at this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Gumataotao to introduce your bill. You're recognized, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for scheduling this public hearing on Bill 214, which was introduced based on suggestions that I received from our community several months ago. The bill proposes to modify the current composition of the Guam Ethics Commission. Mr. Chair, established in 1996 by Public Law 23-105 and finally implemented in 2019 with the support of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration through Executive Order 2019-06, the Guam Ethics Commission exists to investigate and take appropriate action on alleged standard of conduct violations by officials and employees of the government of Guam. Currently, the commission is made up of 7 members appointed by the governor and confirmed by the legislature. Mr. Chair, Guam law requires that each appointee shall be a U.S. citizen and a bona fide resident of Guam. Now, our Ethics Commission law prohibits a person who has been convicted of a felony from serving on the commission and provides that members shall not be an employee or have any member of their immediate family employed by the government of Guam. Mr. Chair, the term employee is defined under law as a nominated, appointed, or elected officer or individual employed by a government of Guam agency, including members of boards or commissions and individuals under personal services contracts. Mr. Chair, based on information obtained last year through the local media, the Guam Ethics Commission was scheduled to meet on October 24, 2025, but was unable to establish a quorum. The commission lost 2 commissioners in May of last year, and movement on certain issues was dependent on the confirmation of new appointments, and I think we're on our way now. Mr. Chair, recognizing the commission's responsibility to adjudicate complaints alleging standard of conduct violations by public officials and employees, Bill 214 proposes to change its membership to include eligible residents appointed by community organizations and the 2 other branches of the government of Guam. For reference, the Hawaii State Ethics Commission has 5 members who must be selected in a manner which ensures their independence and impartiality in accordance with the Hawaii State Constitution. The Judicial Council there nominates 2 individuals for each vacancy on the commission. The nominees' names are sent to the governor of the state of Hawaii, who selects one of the nominees for appointment. Senate confirmation of appointees is not required. Commissioners on the Hawaii State Ethics Commission serve without compensation, but are allowed their actual and necessary expenses incurred in the performance of their respective duties. Mr. Chair, the Guam Ethics Commission serves a critical role in fostering public trust by holding public servants accountable for their actions, and through the amendments offered in this particular bill, we as policymakers have an obligation to strengthen the Commission's independence and effectiveness now and well into the foreseeable future. Mr. Chair, I had the opportunity to meet with the Commission's Executive Director, Mr. Nico Fujikawa, this past November 6th regarding Bill 214. He expressed support at the time for the bill and shared that though these proposed changes align with a list, it's a pretty long list, but a list of suggested amendments to the broader ethics statute that he and his office had developed since he assumed his leadership role in June of 2025, and I thank Nico publicly for this work on this particular issue. With that said, Mr. Chair, I do look forward to the presentations this morning, and we'll work with you and the Government Operations Committee on any amendments, or on amendments, if any, to move Bill 214 through the legislative process. And also publicly, Mr. Chair, I also want to thank my colleague from GIGO, Senator Joe San Augustine, for also being a co-sponsor. Again, thank you for the time, Mr. Chair, and again, I look forward to the talks today.
Sidusmasi, Senator Gumataotao. So once again, I don't have check marks for oral testimony, but I think there may be some, correct? Mr. Zetti, you're going to be, and please come forward. Executive Director, anyone who's going to have oral testimony that hasn't marked their name, please come forward. Okay, I think we're complete now. So just to once again read out who's signed in. Daphne Leon Guerrero, Ethics Commission. Danielle Rossetti, the Judiciary. Chelsea Anderson, Ethics Commission. Krista James, Ethics Commission. Nico Fujikawa, Ethics Commission. Vanessa Camacho, Ethics Commission. And Amanda Alag, GWCC, Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce. So I think Mr. Nico will go with you first as the Executive Director to hear what you have to say about the bill. So please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the author, Senator Gumataotao, and supporters, Senator San Augustine, for this. I'll read off this first, and then we could probably get into some dialogue, because like you mentioned, there is a lot about our enabling legislation that does need to be fixed. So I do appreciate the foresight as well as the support in doing this. So. Buenas and Hafide, Chairman Duenas, and members of the Committee on Government Finance and Operations. On behalf of the Guam Ethics Commission, I would like to provide testimony in support of the intent of Bill 214-38, an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 15, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to strengthening the independence and effectiveness of the Guam Ethics Commission. The Guam Ethics Commission's mandate is to uplift the public's confidence in government officials, programs, and operations by ensuring the promotion and practice of the highest standards of ethical behavior throughout the government of Guam. By promoting transparency, accountability, and ethical conduct among public officials and employees, our agency continues to serve as a cornerstone of good governance and, more importantly, public trust. In this regard, Bill 214 serves as a great first step in providing critical amendments to our enabling legislation that would set the tone of our operations as we continue to evolve. Its focus on ensuring that the composition of our commissioners is more representative of the island's diverse community only strengthens our ability to act objectively when faced with ethical dilemmas. When the composition of our agency's governing body reflects the diversity of our population, it'll only lead to more effective decision-making. It is the Commission's intent to work closely with this legislature to further strengthen our operational efficiencies and shield our agency from unwarranted political or administrative pressures in order to protect the sanctity of what we are mandated to do. This independence is essential for the people of Guam to have confidence in our office to serve fairly, thoroughly, and without bias or political interference. While Bill number 214-38 provides more representation from the branches of government and the business community, the commissioners and I have not had a chance to fully discuss in detail our official position regarding the makeup of the board. However, there are a few amendments to the bill that I would like to propose on behalf of them and ask this committee to consider. The first being quorum. With Bill 214 seeking to strengthen our effectiveness, I ask this committee to consider amending the enabling statute to allow a quorum to be established by 4 members of this 7-member body. This request not only aligns with the intent of this bill, but will also promote greater efficiency and timely decision-making while still preserving a majority representation of our commissioners. The current requirement of 5-member quorum has unnecessarily stalled essential commission business when vacancies, conflicts of interest, illness, or scheduling constraints prevent full attendance, even when we have a clear majority of the commissioners available and prepared to act. A 4-member quorum will help maintain democratic validity by ensuring that decisions still reflect more than half of the commissioners, while reducing the risk of paralysis that can delay critical government functions. We believe this amendment creates a practical balance between accountability and functionality while still reducing administrative inefficiencies. A quorum of 4 will effectively allow our agency to carry out its duties in a timely and responsible manner without diminishing transparency, accountability, and most importantly, public trust. The second, administrative penalties. Another essential component in strengthening our enabling legislation is the implementation of administrative penalties for violations of the Code of Ethics. Our current statutes don't stipulate the use of administrative penalties, but instead only provide that we remand our findings after due process to the agencies with recommendations. By amending this component and allowing for the imposition of administrative penalties for ethics violations, our commission would be empowered to promote greater responsibility by creating timely, proportionate, and enforceable consequences for any misconduct. Administrative penalties not only provide a practical accountability mechanism that reinforces our ethical standards, but also aligns our law with national standards. By establishing clear consequences for violations, officials and employees are more likely to understand their obligations and take them seriously, which only fosters a greater culture of compliance rather than tolerance for misconduct. We believe this approach will enhance public confidence in the enforcement of our ethics laws and demonstrates our firm commitment to responsible governance and ethical conduct at all levels of public service. The Guam Ethics Commission supports the intent of Bill 214 and stands ready to work with this committee and the legislature on further strengthening our agency's independence, operational efficiency, and ability to uplift public trust in our public servants. In a time when confidence in our government has been deeply shaken, the role of the Guam Ethics Commission is not optional, it is essential. Public trust truly is the foundation of an effective government, and once it has eroded, it cannot be restored through words alone, but through visible, enforceable standards of integrity. Strengthening the independence of the Guam Ethics Commission sends a clear message to the community that no public official is above accountability, that ethical misconduct will not be ignored, and that transparency is our governing principle rather than just a talking point. With this increased skepticism and doubt in our government, our commission stands as a safeguard for public interest and a reaffirmation of our collective commitment to honest, ethical public service. Preserving and strengthening our commission is not merely a procedural matter now. It is a decisive step toward rebuilding our people's faith in government and honoring the trust that they have bestowed upon us. I would like to thank the author of this bill, sponsors and supporters. On behalf of the Guam Ethics Commission, Undongkulu Nasuzuas Maasi, for your consideration of our testimony and your continued commitment to ethical governance for the people of Guam. Nasuzuas Maasi.
Nasuzuas Maasi, also Director Fujikawa. Can you please once again just identify yourself for the record? That's for transcription.
I'm sorry. Introduce
Identify
myself.
yourself for the record.
Nico Fujikawa, I'm the Executive Director for the Guam Ethics Commission.
Thank you. Ms. Rossetti, would you like to proceed with your testimony?
Hafadine, good morning. Danielle Rossetti, Administrator of the Courts for the Judiciary of Guam. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Senator San Agustin and Senator Gumataotao. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 214-38 COR, introduced by Senator Gumataotao, relative to strengthening the independence and effectiveness of the Guam Ethics Commission. As it is written, the legislation modifies the Commission's membership to include, among others, a member appointed by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Guam. The Judiciary of Guam requires and promotes the highest ethical standards for its judges, judicial officers, and employees as public servants. Ethical conduct is essential to fulfilling the judiciary's mission of delivering justice fairly and efficiently through transparent, inclusive, and accessible court services, and to advancing its vision of being a model of judicial excellence, trusted, innovative, and independent. While the judiciary fully supports to promote ethical conduct throughout government, it respectfully raises the following concerns regarding Bill number 214-38, which would authorize the Chief Justice to appoint a member to the Commission. As currently drafted, the bill would blur institutional boundaries and may create the appearance that the judiciary is participating in the preliminary oversight or regulation of officials from other branches of government. Even where no actual conflict exists, public confidence in judicial neutrality depends on maintaining clear separation between the courts and bodies responsible for ethics enforcement involving other branches. For this reason, the judiciary respectfully recommends revising the bill to remove the Chief Justice's appointment role. These concerns are heightened by the statutory duties of the Commission. Under existing law, the Commission is authorized to issue advisory opinions, receive and investigate sworn complaints, conduct hearings, and consider alleged violations of the Code of Ethics. In appropriate cases, the Commission may also refer matters for public criminal prosecution to the Attorney General or other authorities. These functions are investigative and quasi-adjudicative in nature and may directly affect the rights, duties, and potential criminal exposure of government officials and employees. Judicial participation in the Commission's appointment structure may therefore create institutional entanglement in matters that could later become before the courts for review or adjudication. Such involvement raises concerns regarding impartiality, recusal, and the appearance of influence, all of which undermine public trust in the judiciary's role as a neutral decision maker. To protect both actual impartiality and the appearance of impartiality, the judiciary must avoid roles that could create conflicts of interest, whether real or perceived. The judiciary operates under a comprehensive ethical framework, including the Judicial Code of Conduct and other rules governing our judges, attorneys, and court employees. These standards are specifically designed to support fairness, integrity, and transparency within the judicial branch. Although the judiciary believes it should not participate in the appointment or governance structure of the Guam Ethics Commission, it remains committed to supporting ethical government in ways consistent with its mission and vision. The judiciary welcomes input on how it can collaboratively with the Commission on ethics education for government employees. The judiciary employs a judicial educator with experience in training and professional development and is willing to share educational resources and best practices that promote ethical awareness while preserving judicial independence. For these reasons, the judiciary respectfully urges reconsideration of Bill number 214-38 in its current form. The judiciary shares the goal of promoting ethical conduct across government. However, preserving the judicial independence and adherence to the separation of powers are essential to maintaining the public's trust. Thank you.
Ms. Danelle Rossetti, representing the Judiciary of Guam. Ma'am, please proceed, identify yourself for the record, and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Amanda Alleg. I'm speaking on behalf of Guam Women Chamber of Commerce. I am a co-chair of the Government Committee. Okay. So, dear Senator Duenas and honorable members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill number 214-38 COR. The Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce, GWCC, appreciates the consideration for this role of public service through a potential appointment to the Guam Ethics Commission under the bill. We recognize that strong ethics systems can promote fair participation, reduce corruption risks, and strengthen public trust in the institutions that shape economic opportunity. GWCC's commitment is to advance women's leadership and address issues affecting women in the workplace. However, GWCC has not yet taken a position on whether Bill 214-38 will deliver those benefits as written. We acknowledge the stated intent to amend Article 3 of Chapter 15, Title 4, GCA, by modifying the Ethics Commission's membership to broaden community representation, and to reinforce the Commission's independence by protecting it from political or external interference, and affirming its authority to adopt internal rules and regulations to safeguard neutrality. At this time, we respectfully request clarification on several points to better understand the purpose, impact, and expectations associated with the proposed amendments. First, while the bill outlines the proposed changes to the Commission's appointment structure, we request clarification on the policy rationale driving these amendments, particularly in light of ongoing quorum challenges. Are there additional concerns this amendment aims to address, and what outcomes or measures will be used to evaluate its success? Second, it is important to note that GWCC board members currently serve 3-year terms, which are shorter than the 4-year terms described in Bill number 214-38. We seek clarity on how this difference in term length would be accommodated for GYCC appointed commissioners. Before GWCC can evaluate the feasibility of this role for our members, we request clear details on the practical expectations for any GWCC appointed commissioner, including meeting frequency, training requirements, and administrative support available to commissioners. Finally, have the authors considered dividing the number of appointees between the three co-equal branches of government? We request clarification on the motivation for appointing authority to specific business organizations and whether broader criteria should be considered to avoid unintended concerns about fairness or exclusion. Specifically, we ask whether the bill's authors considered alternative approaches, such as defined eligibility criteria or a rotating appointing seat or another neutral process to support broad representation. GWCC offers these questions in the spirit of constructive review and to ensure that any new responsibilities placed on our members are clearly aligned with our mission and have a meaningful public impact. Thank you, Senator, and the members of the committee for the opportunity to provide feedback. We appreciate your time and consideration and look forward to continued dialogue on Bill 214-38 COR. Sizos Maasi.
Sizos Maasi, Amanda Aleg, and we appreciate that as well. So I will now defer to the author if you'd like to go first or after Senator San Augustine. Up to you. You lost. Senator San Augustine, you're recognized on Bill 214 for any questions of the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nico, you mentioned change the amended from 5 members to 4. How about if we change it to the majority present? Yeah, and the reason why I say that is because what if you only have 4 names that's left and there's nobody else around? You know, the nominees they don't have any more, no more members. There's only 4 that the process hasn't gone through. It's going to be the 4 you're never going to get past. And then when it goes down and that's further down and says to be approved by at least 5 members, instead of 4, it'll be majority present. I'm just trying to find
a way to streamline it, right?
Right.
The way we look at it is, as long as the decision represents at least a majority, it should be, representative of the community. I agree. As long as we're able to continue to move business forward, there won't be any more, excuses or kind of inefficiency. One of the things, though, that we should consider is when we're going to push forward, for example, a resolution to investigate or a resolution to charge, there should be at least a majority of the entire body present, rather than 2 out of the 3 that are there. Does that make any sense?
Right.
When we're going to do an official action versus cases or some type of due process that is necessary,
right.
I do believe that having at least a majority of the entire commission, so that it's not just 2 people at the moment.
Yes, yeah. And that's why I mentioned the majority, because you have the leeway of allowing for I guess Zoom meetings and stuff like that, so that whoever's present, exactly the majority. Okay, so we'll be good with that one. Then going to the Women's Chamber of Commerce. You mentioned the choices, I guess, that's put in the bill. Who would you recommend then should be included? Because already we're getting testimony from the courts that they're asking be removed. So who would you recommend should be on the commission?
At this time, I don't have a recommendation that I would give. I do know that there are many other community organizations that may be considered, but this is something that was just brought to the table recently, so we haven't really investigated more onto this, and this is why I reiterate on the revisiting and having dialogue regarding this bill with our board and with our members. Okay, because I know the committee will be looking forward to hearing any recommendation. Maybe Sherm should be part of the committee. I mean, I'm just saying this, openly, because I'm just thinking as I'm looking at the bill, it looked to be fair. The chamber's got basically 2 roles: the Guam Chamber, and then we got the Women's Chamber. I'm just trying to think of what other groups. And you're right. There's a lot of other groups out there, but we're trying to be very careful. Because sometimes you open it too much, then everybody else wants to be involved. Then they say, right? You have too many hands in serving the soup. Chefs in the kitchen.
Exactly, nothing's going to get done. But and then on the court side, I respect the request to be excluded. I can understand that, and I'll leave that to the author. and the chairman to figure out how we're going to work that, and we'll identify who we need on the committee, and then we'll move on. And with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Si dus Masi, Senator San Augustine, author of the bill, Senator Gumataotao, and I'll make a few comments when I close. But
Okay, thank you,
you're
Mr.
recognized.
Chair. And let me just start with Danielle. I'm going to make it easier. So when we were coming up with this, we wanted to have a little bit more community-based participation. And so we thought, or at least in my initial thought, and just was trying to find a way to bring the branches all together. I do appreciate the input from the judiciary. Maybe one thought is, I'm not saying that we have to follow what 12 states do, and perhaps the Hawaii Ethics Commission, but there are great people that work in the branch, retired judges, perhaps the judicial educator. Do you think that if we were to amend the bill to target that, would that be still inside of the argument from the judiciary to kind of separate itself from at least this particular proposal?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I think it would depend. Obviously, we could probably re-examine or explore what the other 12 states do and what their structure is set up like for the Hawaii Judicial Council, right? As you know, we have a Judicial Council governing board for the judiciary, and we also have the Supreme Court's governing authority. So it would really depend on what the structure setup would be like. Of course, for Guam, we're a very small jurisdiction, and so just as I mentioned in the testimony, just that appearance in and of itself, right, is really something that we strive to maintain and manage to ensure the public's trust and confidence in the work that we do is fair and impartial and neutral. But I think if we, if they're a retired judge and they're retired as capacity as, they're retired, they're no longer employees of the judiciary, they would, serve at the appointment at their own peril, right, and their personal capacity, but bringing their judicial skills to the table.
Yeah, because I wasn't going to try to poach from the Guam Law Library. I figured that would be a poor judgment on my part to try to do that, looking at members like that. But I was just trying to find a way to bring the branches together, just from experience. I think that you're absolutely right in your testimony. They provide and do a lot of good things across that branch. Just trying to find its way to get to a, we just passed legislation for the Criminal Justice Automation Commission. Why not this one? But I completely understand the testimony of the branch. Just one other question on that. Would the replacement of the judiciary with the Guam Bar Association be maybe a thought?
I mean, that we've got a colleague from the Guam Bar that was here earlier, the really receiving rave reviews on and support for her appointment. I think, the Guam Bar Association as an organization with attorneys, I do think it's important to have legal input from attorneys in the community, but that could be something that you can consider.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Let me go back to Nico. And based on the information that the legislature received from the Guam Ethics Commission back on February 4th, 2026, the Commission noted that it was working to reform Title IV, Chapter 15 of the Guam Code Annotated. The Commission shared through its report that it is considering, mirroring Hawaii's revised statutes, Chapter 84, as Hawaii's Ethics Commission has been effective in strengthening both jurisdiction and enforcement. Nico, if I can, and for the public hearing and for the committee, what is the status of your review of Hawaii's law and specific to the Commission's membership, and what recommendations have been made available to date from if you do have a legal counsel, who advised that they needed more time due to Guam's law being more intricate, but that an updated report would be available by mid-January 2026?
Thank you, Senator. So right now, our attorneys, our legal counsel is still, I haven't received the updated legislation. They're still currently working on it because Chapter 84 of the Hawaii Code is pretty thorough. So what she's doing now is she's making sure that anything that is referenced out to additional laws coincides with Guam law. So I haven't nudged her yet. After this hearing, I will definitely nudge and see where our legal counsel's at with it. However, I do want to speak on the reason why we were looking at the Hawaii Ethics Code is because they went through a change about 2 years back. And what they saw was a complete overhaul of how the community viewed the commission. And because we are still the youngest agency for the government of Guam in terms of funding, I believe this is a necessary step in order to give us the teeth that was mentioned earlier. And when I was appointed to this position, I gave the vision of the 3 E's of ethics: to engage the community, educate them, and then empower them. Right now, the way our enabling legislation is written, it does not empower even the commission to empower the people. The idea is to have this commission be a watchtower to hold all public servants accountable. And so what Hawaii did is, when they transitioned into this new law and updated administrative penalties for one, the ethics complaints that they found jumped from about 65 cases a year to over 400. So as soon as that changed, the community's attitude towards the commission itself saw that they should be taken seriously. They saw actual resolutions to complaints. Right now, we don't have that ability. We can review, we can bring to the commission, they can deliberate and vote, and then we can remand it back to the agency. In that process, there isn't a real type of resolution to the community. And so mirroring this law, because I look at it as a case study, and knowing that it is working for them, there's an idea of us leaning on them as a partner as we evolve this young agency into its next level. So that's where the rationale came from on why we were looking at that. Now, in terms of the membership of the members, I mean, I agree with the intent of the bill. I know we have different opinions on who should be in it, but I also think that with the other changes to the enabling legislation, we might have people asking to be on it, volunteering to be on it, right? Right now, the community isn't really sure what the Ethics Commission does or what it stands for. And so changing our foundation will help rebrand us and be able to get back into the community. So again, I want to work with you guys on the best possible solution. I think as it currently stands, if I'm not mistaken, we can also investigate ethics complaints with employees at the judiciary as well, as they are still Government of Guam employees. So there should be some type of more representation versus just the governor appointing 7 members.
Okay, I have just a few more questions for you, Nico. For background purposes, I raised questions last September regarding legislation creating personal grievance procedures involving department or agency heads. Building on that discussion and recognizing based on the Guam Ethics Commission's determination that it did not have jurisdiction on certain matters, resulting in the dismissal of a number of cases, what information is available confirming whether any portion of these cases were forwarded to the Office of the Attorney General for further action?
I believe it's posted on our website. The last I checked, there were about 6 cases that were sent over that referred to the Office of the Attorney General because they are criminal in nature. However, we have not received an update or a status report on those cases. This is prior to even me taking the helm.
All right, thank you so much for that. Based on a review of the citizen-centric reports, which are made available online through the Commission's website, did your organization submit reports for the fiscal years subsequent to fiscal year 2023? And if not, what is the status of any remaining reports and what progress has been made in addressing the challenges that were identified in FY 2023, such as personnel recruitment, adoption of the standard operating procedures for processing complaints, financial management, invoices and certificates, and the provision of ethics training workshops?
Thank you, Senator. So we do have some statistics that I can share with the body. I believe I have just a quick cheat sheet on me now. However, we haven't done a citizen-centric report. I believe we are still waiting on our audit, right? It comes after the audit is completed for us, so we can kind of push that forward. So once we receive that, we'll be able to produce that. However, I do have the team already working on just an annual report. That way you guys can reference at a very high level kind of the movement that's taking place. But I do have to admit, my background is in finance economics and then research and strategic planning. And looking at the data at the commission, I knew early on that we needed to make amendments to our foundation, to our enabling legislation. Because what's happening is cases went from about 70 cases in 2022 down to, let me just double check. 1 second, let me reference this. So our cases went, I'm sorry, 34 cases were referred to us in 22, 27 in 2023, 15 in 2024, down to 3 in 2025. Now, what I'm seeing here in the data is it's telling a story that perhaps we are not providing that resolution to the community, and so people are starting to wean off of maybe it's not working. And so what we're trying to do is, okay, let's go back in, revisit our enabling law, give us the teeth so that the community can believe in what we're doing and start showing them that these cases are being taken seriously. And it goes back to our testimony. Why we need these changes and amendments to the law is, as it currently stands, it doesn't look like it's working for the community. However, it is essential in trying to gain back their trust. It's just how we approach it now.
So then, do you think that the administrative penalties that you recommended today, do you think that would be a deterrent for that kind of behavior across our government of Guam?
I believe if they know that they have a commission, with the support of commissioners who are very independent and who are doing the right thing, I think the community will start to see those complaints. I anticipate those complaints, much like Hawaii, to skyrocket. And then it'll start to wean off, which is a good thing for us because then we know there's somebody watching that, we are the watchtower for the island.
And then just the kind of a comment or questions to Amanda. First off, thank you for being with us this morning. I know that the Guam Women's Chamber probably saw the ad and said, why us? As did the Guam Chamber and said, why us? And again, looking for broader participation. I do understand some of the issues on your terms. I think we can work something out. But if it's not the Guam Women's Chamber, and if it's not the Guam Chamber of Commerce, you're a small business owner. There'd be two basically community groups in this. I know we just mentioned the Guam Bar, perhaps SHRM. Are there any other groups that you think would be valuable or invaluable to this commission to serve? I mean, obviously, if the Women's Chamber is, we asked you to table, but do you have any ideas of what would be groups that could be possibly part of this commission?
Thank you for that, Senator. Nico mentioned the business constructive part of it, and I see where the Guam Ethics Commission is wanting that business consultation, and who better than the chambers, right, to do that, and also the Guam Women's Chambers. I cannot speak on behalf of Guam Chambers of Commerce, but I can say that the Women's Chamber appreciates the diversity and acknowledging the women in it. If you wanted to have a women representative on the Ethics Commission, guaranteed you're going to have a woman serving, right? If you were to choose or proceed with the GWCC to represent. But again, I can't speak on behalf of Guam Chambers of Commerce or any other association right now.
Okay, so as a small business owner, is there any other groups that you work with? I mean, I know I can go on a list right now as a former small business owner. Do you think that anyone might be interested? Any civic groups that could be a part of this?
No, I can't right now. No.
Okay, let me ask that question of Danielle. So I know we have the Guam Bar. Is there any other community groups that you think could be involved in this? From your experience.
I think even in some of the community partnerships that we do have, definitely the Guam Chamber of Commerce is at the forefront of a lot of the efforts that the judiciary kind of leads, and so they're in the private business side, they're the first that comes to mind is what we deal with as community partners, and they're very supportive. So I think including them in this for purposes of being part of the commission was perhaps a good thing to have, yeah. Outside of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, the Guam Bar Association, there's the legal community, a number of our other community partners we have is, of course, with the Seroptimus International, right, Erica's House. Those are just the court community partners for the work that we do at the judiciary.
Thank you for your input there, Danielle. What about you, Nico? When you think about, okay, so if it's not the Guam Women's Chamber or the Chamber of Commerce, we mentioned SHRM, we mentioned the Guam Bar. Can you think of any other organizations that you think would be invaluable to the work of the Guam Ethics Commission?
Okay, Senator, I'm going to answer this question a little differently.
Go for it.
What I'm hearing is, there may be some hesitancy from some of the bodies, civic groups that you've mentioned in the law, and I think part of that is it's a little ambiguous right now on what exactly the Ethics Commission is doing and who it governs. For example, I'm not too sure if the community knows that it's not just government of Guam employees who can file ethics complaints. And it is members of the business community who have to deal with government agencies. And so perhaps if they go back and sit down and actually discuss this, maybe a little more time for them, they'll understand the value that if we appoint somebody, they sit on this commission that actually would help in even the procurement process of ethical issues where our constituents are directly involved with government officials. Right now, it looks like, oh, maybe you're asking us to take on a new responsibility. We don't want that because we're not exactly sure what that entails. However, if we start to rebrand ourselves, go out and educate again that anybody on the island of Guam can file an ethics complaint, whether you're in the government or in the private sector, if you feel that there is a violation of the Code of Ethics. And I think that can show that there's a lot of value added from these groups, and we can probably change their mindset that I do want to participate. We have a panel ready to go to the next person that we want to appoint to the commission. So there is a lot of work ahead of us, and I understand that, and I take that responsibility very seriously. So I think that will be a big component on getting people to kind of support.
Yeah, I mean, it would be too easy just to say general public member.
Right.
I mean, we have that all across the entire Guam Code annotated.
Yeah.
And we were trying to find a way in 2026 to find ways to have more folks involved from different places. I could have said University of Guam, could have said just about any other location. Mm-hmm. In looking at this, that's why I'm asking. I think it's important for a more broader, representation on this commission. So thank you for all for you being here, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time to ask questions.
Senator Gumataotao, fascinating discussion. I think this is, as you may know, in this legislature, we have a very robust markup, committee markup schedule before bills hit the floor. So we look forward to all of the testimony that's been presented, and I'm sure the author is, he's one of the standouts in the markup world. So our committee will work with him on the markup, and I think that we can come to some consensus before the bill hits the floor. But certainly, I'm thankful for your testimony, in general support, but understanding, and also I think this public hearing as well, I'm sure will be covered, and maybe there's more awareness now, because I think for many of us, even in the legislature, by reviving the Ethics Commission, it's kind of, it seems like it's starting to take off now, and you're right, Nico. I just don't think the general public understands the overall mission and the importance of what the design is. The design is to make sure that if members of the public are having experiences with their interaction with government operations and government entities, that they see, hear, or know about possible ethical violations, that they take advantage of the opportunity to present that and to have that complaint heard, especially if it's against them personally or just something that they believe should be brought to the attention. So I think the more that awareness is out there, some of the things that we see or perceive or hear of, will be brought to the forefront. And also, I think also just serves as a great deterrent. So maybe this bill really, its first action is to get more awareness out there, and then the committee markup will be to see what the additional composition should be, and then once again, Nico, you can go about your mission of trying to heighten the visibility and the awareness of what this valuable commission should be doing. So those are my thoughts. Would you like to close on the bill, Senator?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, again, for conducting the public hearing on Bill 214. My challenge to our colleagues that are up here, not in attendance, not a member of the Committee on Government Operations, I ask, Mr. Chair, that our colleagues provide their input in the coming days as outlined in our rules back to this committee. I'm urging them to send an email to senator.duenas@guamlegislature.gov with their input and recommended changes to make Bill 214 better, as many of them have made a point to say on the floor in recent sessions and other policies that we've addressed here since the start of our term in the 38th Guam Legislature. I ask that they please help make this bill better at this point in the process. While our fellow colleagues may have a right to change this policy on the floor across the hall, I'm urging diligence and respect of our process that started here in this body in 1951. For the record, ideas to change any part of this particular bill, Mr. Chair, works in our process in the Guam Legislature. Again, thoughts from our colleagues, even if they're against the bill, that's important too. And again, I thank all of the senators in advance for their support of the markup process of Bill 214. Again, that is our job, and that's what we are elected to do here in the Guam Legislature. As I shared at the very beginning of this discussion, I met last year with the Commission's Executive Director, who informed me that the proposed changes in Bill 214 align with a list of suggested amendments to Guam's ethics statute. I believe that this particular measure can and should serve as that start, as that vehicle to help update and strengthen policies impacting this important organization, which began operations in 2019, long after its creation by law 30 years ago. Now, this policy change, I'm hoping, will make this very inclusive. A broader swath of our community will be represented and should be represented on this particular commission. The membership should reflect fair-mindedness and diligence, and I believe that this is sound and common sense policy that will be useful to all of us. Integrity, public trust, accountability. These are not just catchphrases, but values that we all can share in ensuring that our public sector performs its work as mandated by Guam law. And by the way, we should not expect anything less. Mr. Chair, I appreciate in advance the opportunity to work with your committee on government operations during the markup stage as we move Bill 214 through the legislative process. And again, thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator San Augustine, for being with us today, and all the stakeholders that are in this room for your participation in today's public hearing. Thank you all again.
Sijus Masi, Senator Gumataotao, and so that will conclude, and having now been heard, Bill 214-38 COR, we'll take a 1-minute recess and set up for the last bill on the agenda. We are in recess for 1 minute. Okay, the Committee on Finance and Government Operations is once again called to order. And so now we will move to the final agenda item, Bill number 205-38 COR, introduced by Joe S. San Augustine, an act to amend subsection 6802E of Article 8, Chapter 6, Title 11, Guam Code annotated relative to the discount on the purchase of tobacco tax stamps. Senator San Augustine, you're recognized on Bill 205.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. Chairman, colleagues, and to all who are participating in this hearing, and to the listening audience. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for hearing this bill today. Bill 205-38 is an act to amend Section 6802E of Article 8, Chapter 6, Title 11, Guam Code annotated relative to the discount on purchase of tobacco tax stamp, which seeks to address a critical gap in the current compensation structure for licensees who bear the operational and financial responsibilities of affixing tobacco tax stamp. Currently in Guam law, the discount provided to licensee for purchasing tobacco tax stamps from the government stands at 0.4%, a rate established by Public Law 34-55 in 2017. However, because licensees are not required to comply with affixing tax stamp, DRT required them to produce stamps and comply with the law. The cost of compliance, encompassing administrative machines, purchase, material fix, aspects of fixing tax stamps has increased considerably due to procurement and maintenance of machines, inflations, and changing market conditions. As a result, the original discount no longer adequately offsets the expense faced by licensees, creating a financial hardship that threatens business sustainability and regulatory compliance. The proposal to increase the discount on tobacco stamp to 3 3/4% is not arbitrary. It is a calculated response to economic realities confronting tobacco distributors. The bill aims to provide a more predictable and equitable form of compensation, directly addressing the increased costs associated with affixing the required tax stamp. This discount is simply to cover the cost of machine equipment and stamp materials, training to operate and maintain equipment, personnel to affix stamps on each pack, reseal cartons and cases, which has eroded the practical value of the original discount since 2017 establishment. A fixed rate discount of 3.75% establishes a clear and consistent standard for reimbursement, reflecting the true cost of compliance in today's economic climate. This predictability is essential for licensees as they plan their operations and manage expenses while preserving the integrity of Guam's tobacco tax system by making compliance attainable. In summary, Bill 205 is a necessary and timely measure that responds to the evolving needs of Guam's tobacco licensee. By updating the discount rate for tobacco tax stamps, the bill ensures that businesses can continue to operate lawfully and sustainably while maintaining the government's regulatory priorities. At the end of the day, the licensee are doing what the government should be doing, preparing and issuing stamps to licensee to affix the products. I urge the passage of Bill 205 to promote fairness, compliance, and economic stability within Guam's tobacco distribution sector, and I ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I look forward to hearing testimony on Bill 205, Jesus Masi. And I have one letter that was sent to us by the Department of Revenue and Taxation when we first were drafting the bill. And this is from Maria Lazama, the director. It was dated October 8, 2025. Holiday, Senator San Augustine. The Department of Revenue and Taxation has reviewed your draft legislation to amend the discount rate on the purchase of tobacco tax stamp. As your office moves forward with introducing the bill to adjust the discount from 0.4% to 6.25%, the Department of Taxation recommends that legislation be revised to set the discount at no more than 3.75, which is equivalent to 15 cents per stamp. Our proposed discount of 3.75% strikes a balance between the need to help licensee offset the costs associated with affixing stamps and the government's inherent duty to collect the tax imposed on the sale of or use of cigarettes. We also recommend that the bill be corrected to state Title 11 instead of Title 12, the Guam Code annotated. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Ms. Lazama. The Based on this letter, we amended the bill to ensure that it was consistent with what Revenue and Taxation had recommended. And that's why the bill is in this format right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope for your favorable consideration of the participants today.
Si Dusmasi, Senator San Agustin, and so now signed up to provide testimony on Bill 205-38 is Ricardo Duenas. Mr. Duenas, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Duenas, Senator San Agustin, Senator Gumataotao. My name is Ricardo C. Duenas. I am the Chief Financial Officer for Wesco Trading Company, Sales Trading Company. We are one of the cigarette distributors here in Guam, and we are here in support of Bill 205 to amend the discount rate to move it up from 0.4% to 3 3/4%. Looking back at the law, when you first take a look at Public Law 3455, which established the tobacco tax stamp law, that was implemented back in 2017, nearly 10 years ago. And it's taken 10 years to actually implement the program. Our company has been in support and has pushed for the implementation of this program for the last 9 years. We have been firm supporters of the policy. Even back then, when we were reviewing the initial legislation, we understood that Revenue and Taxation was reluctant to take on the program and to be the lead as far as procuring the stamp machines and taking over the process of applying the stamps to the cigarettes. So at that point, it fell to the individual distributors. That involved each distributor getting their own tobacco stamp machine, which cost in excess of $150,000, close to $200,000 per machine. So of the 3 tobacco companies in Guam, each company had to get their own machine rather than have it centralized and more efficiently established by Revenue and Taxation and run by them. But that was the reality that we had to deal with 9 years ago. At the time, the law provided for a discount rate on the purchase of tobacco stamps at 0.4% as a way to reimburse the tobacco companies or the tobacco distributors for the cost that they incur in actually applying the stamp. We are the only industry that I can recall that is being required to pay for the administration of tax collections. No other industry in Guam has to pay for the administration of the tax that they pay. Purchasing the machine for $200,000 for each company was an unfunded mandate that we've accepted and have accepted as a cost of doing business in Guam. However, the continual operation to affix these stamps comes with significant cost. Back in 2017, a figure of 0.4% was put forward, but at that time we had no idea of what the cost would be. We had no idea of what would be involved. And we knew that at that time it was low, but we needed to get that bill moving forward. Now that we have the implementation, we can see all the costs that we must incur in order just to affix the stamp. We've hired up to 6 to 10 people to assist in the running of the stamp machines, in pulling out the inventory, in making sure that everything is secure. We work with Revenue and Taxation to withdraw from the bond to process for the stamping. That takes a lot of labor. We've also had to put in special climate control equipment into our warehouse because of the humidity our climate has. The stamp machines are very sensitive to high humidity, and the higher the humidity, it increases the chance for spoilage. So we have that. We have training. Right now, we're still getting a handle on what the training figure is. We've had to fly out an expert for the installation of the machines, And each time we fly them out, just their fee alone is $15,000, not including travel and lodging. And we're anticipating that we would have to get these machines serviced every 6 months. So that's a tremendous cost that we would have to bear. The 0.4% just didn't cut it. And I think everybody knows, and even at the admission of Department of Revenue and Taxation, they've seen as we've gone through this implementation process, they've been working with us hand in hand, and they've seen all the steps that we've taken to procure, import, install, and train our people. And they've seen all the labor and costs that we've incurred, and I think they've come to the realization that, yes, there is an amendment that needs to be made to increase these costs. We're not here to make money on the discount. We're here to recoup our cost for the implementation of the law. We don't even know if this is enough, to tell you the truth, but we feel that this is something that we can work with. 3.7% is a number that we could strive and try to affect our efficiencies in the process. But at 0.4%, right off the bat, we're already losing money. But I appreciate Senator Snogstein and Senator Duenas for sponsoring this bill and bringing it forward. And I think once we've already implemented the actual program of stamping the cigarettes. They're out there in the market now. So I think the next step is to amend the discount fee, and then in a few months, take a look and see where our cigarette tax collections are. How has this program impacted the amount of money that the Department of Revenue and Taxation is collecting on this tax? And I think that would be an interesting exercise to go through. But yeah, again, thank you very much, and for allowing me to express our support for this bill.
Si just masi, Mr. Duenas. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and recognize the author, unless he wants to go last. Senator Gumataotao, you're recognized at this time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Rick, for being with us today. Mr. Chair, I just had a comment and maybe a couple questions. It might be more directed toward the committee, but when we look at the fiscal note, it shows the Healthy Futures Fund has about an average over the last 5 years, $33 million, and when I see this bill, man, it's like this is a lot of money. And it seems like this is just a challenge to execute the laws of Guam here. I mean, this regulation, to get it together, took long. There's costs involved, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the amount of time and money that it's taking. All the while, the industry of Guam are trying to genuinely try to respond to the statute. I say that because it goes to the credibility of this government to be able to execute on laws, and folks in the private sector and even consumers just are you're still waiting for others to do their part. I just only had two questions, Mr. Chair, maybe for the committee. Is any updates regarding the tax stamp procurement? I don't know if you mentioned, I could barely hear you, Senator, but recognizing that it was reported through OPA Report 2302 on DRT's assessments and collection of excise taxes for alcoholic beverages and tobacco products, that the printing of cigarette tax stamps was delayed at the time as a result of issues concerning procurement, yet another chip at the credibility of this government. And secondly, based on the bill's fiscal note, BBMR unable to determine the measure's fiscal impact, absent information on the revenues collected specifically from tobacco tax stamp purchases, hoping that we can try to get a summary of the benefit for those who are watching at home, perhaps, is in which DRT is able to really effectively account for tobacco licensees' receipts and distribution of tobacco products and their payments of applicable taxes to the government of Guam. I know that I've seen it in oversight hearings and in other bills, but I'm hoping that at some point for at least an add-on to the bill in committee that we can get some of those answers. But that's all I had, Mr. Chair, today, and thank you so much for that.
Mr. Senator Gumataotao, and before I go to Senator Snogstein, because you had addressed perhaps the concept and the question to the committee, and as I am a co-sponsor on this, I'll just mention this comment before I go to Senator Snogstein. I've been here, like Mr. Duenas has discussed, watching this process for an equal amount of years in and out of a senatorial seat and other private sector work that I've done in between. And I can tell you that the bureaucratic process is the main logjam to this very important process. And I look at it as twofold, and I think Mr. Ricardo Duenas alluded to this in his testimony. You not only have eliminated the bureaucratic process, I look at this as a public-private partnership, but the private industry has taken on the full weight of implementation. And now what I see that we're going to have as the benefit is not only that the capital outlay has been put forward by the private sector, but then we now have another auditing tool with regard to the process. And that also has been an overriding question. I don't want to go into, I think the media and other coverage of the bureaucratic process really shows how arduous this has been. And so I am totally respectful of the private sector taking the bull by the horns and saying, fine, we want, everyone that I've spoken to that is a vendor, I mean, they want to be accountable, but they feel that this is really the primary way of being accountable. In the past, they've talked about how suggestions may be at the port, and then that being their double taxation, in terms of arrival and then having to realize on the other side. So I think with revenue tax being in favor of this doesn't change the bonding in terms of the controls of incoming and the supply going out. But it's certainly at the vendor level and at the distribution level and at the purchase level provides us an accounting tool, all at the expense at the private sector. So, it's unfortunate, as you mentioned, procurement and bureaucracy ties up a lot of things. But I'm heartened by the fact that private sector, with the support of revenue taxation, is in support of this. And once again, we'll be able, in further hearings going forward, to see an audit process on this, and including the public auditor, and see if this is working out. But I thank them for putting forward the capital, and as well as the having to staff and do all the other things that are required to meet this requirement, and a law that we keep trying to implement. But now it's at its fruition. I've actually had people who continue to use tobacco products send me pictures of their stamp on their pack of cigarettes. So I know it's out there and it's working. But I'll go to the author now to any questions or comments on the bill. Senator San Agustin, you recognize.
Mr. Chairman, you said it all, and the ironic thing is that, and you're right. I've been serving as a senator now. It's going to be 10 years. Since the first bill introduced for the tobacco stamp, nothing has moved. If it wasn't for the private sector saying, wait a minute, because the audit has come out and said that there's tobacco that we can't collect the taxes on. I worked at Revenue and Tax, and we were inspecting folks before I became a senator and finding cigarette unregistered. With the tobacco stamp and with the private industry involved, now it's easier to catch. It's easier to control. Then the audit now can come to the end and say, you know what? We know who owes, because the tax stamp is there. Tobacco tax stamp is there. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I just hope that we can get this through the committee and out for the sessions vote, and we can move on this one and take care of the private industry that's taking care of the government today. Thank you, sir.
So yeah, I think that we're all in agreement on this, and then I just like to really say that once again, I don't think we can overstate the fact that it really brings everything full circle. That we now have the implementation, the cost that's been borne, all of the questions of the potentiality of the issues surrounding when there may be tobacco products being sold on the black market out there and the like. I have a hard time believing that the black market or anybody who participating in that activity would go through the expense and time to try to have a stamp on their product. So I think we're really in a good spot here with regard to that. And so I thank once again everyone for being here today for the discussions on all of the bills. And so we will consider Bill 305 having been heard at this time. So we'll take a short recess and then we'll conclude this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Duenas, for showing up, unless you have any other comments. Thank you. We're in a 30-second recess. The Committee on Finance and Budget and Government Operations is back in order. So this will include today's public hearing on Bills 38, the nomination, starting with the nomination of Ms. Genevieve Rapadas, and then also on Bills 215-38, as well as Bill 205-38 COR. And the committee will continue to accept written testimony on the bills within 7 calendar days of from today, which may be addressed to Senator Christopher M. Duenas as chairman of the committee, or mailed to 163 West Chalan Santa Papa, Hagåtña, Guam 96910. You may also email your testimonies to senator.duenas@guamlegislature.gov. This public hearing is now adjourned, and the time is 1 minute before 11 a.m. Si Diyos masi, God bless you.